What's good, you two? Welcome back to the Furnished Mind. And remember, Christ is King. Let's go. Today we have this video from Mayor Brandon Johnson of Chicago, a city I visited a lot. Definitely have a heart for the place. But it's sad to see a lot of our major cities in this country just getting destroyed and on a slow decline. Some more accelerated than others. San Fran's one of them, New York City, and also Chicago. Chicago just so happened to go from Lori Lightfoot, one of the worst leaders we've ever seen, transitioning into Brandon Johnson, who is, in my opinion, worse than her. He's a little more polished than she is, but once again, that doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's all about substance. It's all about putting your pen to paper and what we get done and what we get passed. Chicago's suffering from a migrant crisis. Obviously, we know the southern border down in Texas, they're getting the full brunt of everything. But a lot of migrants are being shipped up to northern, midwestern cities, and Chicago happens to be one of them, and they are exploding at the seams right now. There are too many migrants. And it just so happens the Chicago citizens they're fed up. Because to them, they're trying to vote for a Chicago first mayor, somebody who can restore them back to the glory of old. But it seems that he has some other business he needs to take care of first, and that so happens to be housing migrants. So you see just here from the clip already, before I even press play, that's Mayor Brandon Johnson right there, center in front. He's surrounded by some local pastors in the area. And let's go ahead and see what they have to say, because this is insane.
Mayor, can you please share some specific steps you guys talked about to address the racial divisions that have been, heated because of the migrant influx? And, is that, knocking on doors? Is that events? Is that, fake events? What kind of specific steps are you going to take to heal?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is that we have to tell the entire truth and the entire story. Because this notion that it's only black people who are concerned about the migrant crisis is not true.
That's right.
So some of the conversation around this division, there are individuals who want to score political points, to sow these negative seeds, to get us fighting one another. But in order for me to have an entire commission dedicated to reparations, as well as an entire office dedicated to reentry, a dedicated revenue stream for the unhoused, that requires black, brown, and white votes. In fact, the city council has actually demonstrated that even the things that black folks are concerned about, that it turns out that other members of city council agree. Look, the whole impetus behind what's happening at the border is for extremism in this country to plant these seeds of negativity to divide our city. And so what we are...
Unbelievable. So it's seeds of negativity that's dividing Chicago. Gotcha. It's not the rampant crime. It's not the fact that migrants are showing up and they're camping all over the streets. That the single motherhood rate is out of control. The schools are failing. Community centers are failing. Seeds, bro. What? This is part of the reason why I never wanted to be a politician, and part of the reason why a lot of people are fed up with the double talk of politicians. It's not seeds of negativity. It's the fact that there are actual migrants here that they see, that they're engaging with in their day-to-day lives, and they're figuring out, where are they staying? Where are they getting their food from? How are they able to survive in Chicago? It's fall, about to be wintertime, it's cold. Who's housing them? Somebody's taking care of them, and we want to know, what part do you play in this? If you play a part in this, how many migrants are there? Where are they staying? Is it the churches? Is that why you have the backing of all these pastors behind you? If you're feeding them and you're housing them, where is the money coming from? Is it coming from our church dollars? Is it coming from our tax dollars? But of course, they resort to ambiguous language to once again deflect, stating that it's just seeds of dissension from the opposing political party. Whatever. Let's continue.
Are doing as a city is what this city did when they elected me. Is that we surround ourselves around our values. We speak to our values by passing paid time off, by abolishing sub-minimum wage, which of course is going to benefit black and brown people, and that we're going to continue to do what we do best, and that's organize our communities around the values that make the city of Chicago the greatest city in the world.
So this is a common political shtick here. Why are you talking about paid time off and all these unrelated benefits? Nobody's asking about that. We're not saying, hey, tell me about your political resume of accomplishments right now. We're talking about a very specific issue, and that's the migrant crisis. And he's going down his list of, this is what I've done for you lately list. We don't care. I don't want tax dollars going towards migrants that are not legally supposed to be here. That's what the conversation needs to gravitate around. Nothing else. I don't care what food drives you did last week. I don't care about buying school backpacks for the kids. We're talking about specifically the migrant crisis. This is what happens, folks, when we don't take local votes seriously. They went from Lori Lightfoot to Brandon Johnson, who, of course, is, based on my assessment, is another Marxist leader who I believe was placed. I don't think he, well, I don't want to get into that, but let's continue.
Mayor, you're here with a number of black pastors, and one of the issues that we've seen happen or not happen is black churches stepping up to take in some of these migrants. Did your discussions today include any discussions about black churches stepping up, and are you asking pastors to do that part in this situation?
You know, the beauty of this moment is that I don't have to ask people who are tethered to a faith that's bigger than a government to step up and do right by people. There are black leaders that are stepping up and leaning in and supporting migrants in this moment. There are black pastors who are stepping up and making sure that the dollars that are appropriated for violence prevention, that the council is prepared to vote for that. You know, the whole work around reentry, Reverend Marshall Hatch has an entire village on the west side of Chicago called the Ma Alpha Project that is dedicated to making sure that individuals who are formerly incarcerated get another chance at economic security.
But about the migrants, I mean, if you had it.
So he was asked the specific role that the pastors, the black pastors, are playing in housing, whether or not they're housing migrants. And once again, he gave us this incredibly ambiguous response. Of course, that pastors are going to step up and help out members of the community, whether they're migrants, blah, blah, blah. I want to know how many migrants they're helping, how they're helping them, the dollar amount behind each individual, adult and child. These are the things that we're trying to hear. We're trying to hear, yes, we're helping so-and-so church, X amount of churches are helping, they're providing A, B, and C, and we plan on providing this for the next 6 months, 8 months. That's what people want to hear. But he's harping on the religious belief system because he understands we as human beings, we can be emotionally manipulated. That's one thing the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts, they all understand that the general population, for the most part, sheep. They just need a shepherd that can lead them in the right direction or the wrong direction. And they understand this already. So if they can manipulate you emotionally, and for most Americans, especially black Americans, we're very Christian. We're very Christian. Very religious. We love our God, which is not in and of itself a bad thing. But they know that for most people, if you start throwing out random scripture, they're going to feel convicted. They're not going to be able to understand whether or not they're being manipulated. And they're just going to be like, oof, let me just go with it because he's making a strong case for Christ right now. And I don't know anything other than that. So frustrating. Let's continue here.
Discussions about
What I'm saying is that black leaders in this city have always stood up for what is right. They're doing what they've always done, which is leaning in and supporting not just this crisis, but every single crisis that this city has had to endure.
So not only are they leaning in, but anytime something happens in our beautiful city of Chicago, all our religious leaders step in and they do their part. That's what they're called to do, is to do their part. Sir, did you specifically ask them to assist in housing, feeding, and protecting migrants? Yes or no? And this is the kind of verbal gymnastics that goes on when you try to pin a politician down. It just can't happen. And most people don't press hard enough. I mean, the people that would, they would get filtered out immediately. They wouldn't be allowed to enter into the facility. It looks like they're in a church right now. But just pay attention to the verbal gymnastics that's going on here.
What we don't ever have to debate is where the black church stands when it comes to justice. And this situation is no different. I've answered your question.
I haven't heard you answer the question about whether you.
Which part of my question are you not understanding? What part of my answer that you're not understanding?
Whether you've asked them to step up.
What
and
I'm
help
saying
out
is that they've
particularly
already
migrants.
done it, is what I'm saying. They're already done it.
I don't understand where.
You don't understand that they've already done it?
I-
Can we move on? Because apparently, I've said it repeatedly, let me just, I'm clear, that black pastors have already stepped up in this moment. Of course, we're having conversations about how the federal government and the state government has to do more. But I wanted to be emphatically clear, because if you're not hearing it, I want you to hear it clear. Black pastors are stepping up as they always have stepped up.
So basically, he's not going to put the blame on himself. He can't say, yes, I told them I need you guys to step up and take in your portion of migrants. He's not going to do it. He's going to continue using deflection, moving the goalposts, and responding with ambiguous statements. They've always done it. They've always stepped up when our city's in need, because that's justice. That's the right thing to do. Let's move on.
I have a different question, but I am going to back off my colleague in saying, I think he's just asking how many churches have taken in families. Our churches taking families. That's it.
Sure. Well, sir, a number of them have stepped up, and we're going to continue to push for more of them to step up.
All right, but I do have a question on a different topic. Can you talk a little bit about your pick as the new health commissioner, why she was chosen, and why you believe she will make a better health commissioner than Allison Arway?
You see that? A lot of these journalists are plants. You have one guy out of a handful that's actually trying to uncover some real injustices that are happening. The burden that's being placed on the taxpayers of an already expensive city, one of the high costs of living in our country, Chicago. He's generally trying to do good reporting, good journalism, and you have a plant here. She showed like, oh, let me try to show that I'm helping and assisting him a little bit by getting further clarification on the question and answer. But she immediately changes the goalpost to health commission. Bruh, the reason you're there in the first place is because of the migrant crisis. Why are you using this as an opportunity to take up time, valuable time, to get real answers, real solutions? And you're asking about a health commission appointee. That's a plant. These people are plants in there. They're there to deflect, absorb time, so when the few people that want to ask real questions and do real journalism are allowed to, if that's even a thing anymore, real journalism, this happens. It gets derailed because there are people that are there in bad faith.
Well, as you know, public health is an important part of my administration. And as I've said repeatedly, our work to pass treatment, not trauma, was an essential part of my campaign, and we've delivered on that promise. Opening up mental health clinics, which were shut down by a couple of administrations ago, that we are obviously moving with expedition to make sure that public health reaches every single neighborhood. Dr. Ige is an incredible human being. Quite frankly, she really imbibes the collaborative, competent, compassionate spirit that I've said from the very beginning that leadership in my administration has to imbibe. And the vote and the confidence that she has from community leaders as well as key stakeholders that understand that public health has to be, a system of care, that she represents the values in which the people of Chicago want to see in their public health commissioner.
Mayor, in addition to what you said a moment ago about the efforts of clergy stepping up to address the migrant crisis and your calls repeatedly on the state and federal government to step in for help, given all of that, is it time for your office to acknowledge that the city is struggling to address the needs of this crisis?
What a poignant question. We need you to honestly respond to this. Based on the influx of migrants and all the steps the city has taken to shelter them, provide housing, food for them, is the city now struggling? The taxpayers, if you use some church dollars, are the citizens of Chicago struggling? This is not a hard question. Let's see how he responds.
I don't know which part of my time in 6 months as mayor that we have not acknowledged that we cannot bear the responsibility alone. That this responsibility, of course, has placed a tremendous amount of stress on families. That has always been acknowledged.
But I guess specifically at our juncture now, I mean, we're entering winter months, it's getting colder. I think people are curious about what is the assessment of the proposed base camps. I mean, I don't know that people have seen tents pop up or things happening, so I
We
guess
have
that's
stood up,
my
yeah,
question
I
is-
think I understand your question. I think
Yeah.
I understand the second part of
Sure.
your question, is that what are we doing in this moment?
Right, is the city
Yeah.
moving quickly enough to address this crisis?
Well, look, I've stood up a brand new shelter every single week since I've been in office. That we renegotiated a contract with a staffing agency that I inherited to reduce costs. We put out RFPs for support for individuals who can help manage facilities, as well as provide food and support. But what we can't lose sight of is that the plan that I have put forth and I've carried out, that it requires investments from the state and the federal government. I've said that repeatedly. I pushed hard for, national policy to reflect the demands of this moment. I've said from the very beginning that foreign policy, particularly the sanctions that have been placed on Central and South America, has exacerbated the economic turmoil that these countries have had to endure as a result of bad foreign policy. I'm grateful that President Biden has eased those sanctions. It has caused some level of stability around the border, and they have to still do more. And so my
So the first thing he does is acknowledge that, when have I not said that this is a weight that's stressful for the city? Listen, when you start speaking in abstractions, basically all he's doing is he's removing the fangs from it. He's taking the direct line from the issue of migrants being housed to his administration. And he's making it seem like it's an abstract situation, because now it's, well, the country can't support it. The international community can't support it. Sanctions that have been placed is causing instability, and that's a direct correlation to why we can't carry the weight of it here in Chicago. That's not what is being asked. With the migrants we have here, you just admitted to setting up shelters, and now you're creating a straw man by saying now we're trying to find ways of reducing costs for the same shelters that you just admitted to setting up. This is what we're dealing with, folks. These people are trained. I think a lot of these guys, they go through the WEF leadership training program, the World Economic Forum, if you know Klaus Schwab. I feel a lot of these guys, they go through that leadership program, and that's why they go in as those who are interested. And I feel like that's what basically hardens this Marxist ideology. That's the reason why I won't die, is because you have people like the WEF still advocating for Marxist ideals. because they understand class war is how you shatter the frame of this nation. If you can create the bourgeoisie versus the proletariats, and then also that is what's going to usher in communism. So you shatter it through class war. Whether they don't care if it's based on employer versus employee, black versus white, millennial versus Gen Z. They don't care by all means necessary. So let's go ahead and close this out here.
Work continues as we continue to administer our plan to remove people out of police stations who are sleeping on floors, pregnant women and children, and putting them into temporary shelter that gives them a little bit more dignity.
Is there any update on the 18 and California agreement that the city recently signed? What would you say to Alderman Julia Ramirez? She claimed for more transparency, and residents have been protesting that they don't want migrants over there.
Well, we continue to have conversations with alders across the city, and my job is to make sure that we are identifying sites that can ultimately help us deal with this crisis. But make no mistake about it, that the plan that we have in place requires the state and the federal government to lean in to provide additional support. Now, my administration has been very clear that without the state and federal government leaning in, providing more financial support for our city, that the sustainability of this operation just becomes that much more arduous.
What about the agreement on the environmental issues over there?
So I'm glad you mentioned the environmental dynamic that I'm dealing with as mayor.
So that's it right there. You have leaders saying, we don't want this. He's saying, well, based on the influx of the migrants, I'm going to continue setting up shelters. And whether or not they're here is contingent on if we get an unnamed number in terms of support from state and federal government. They're not saying how much they need. He's just saying we're going to keep building these temporary housing facilities for migrants until the state and federal government decides to intervene and give us as much money as we need to support this issue or eradicate this issue, I should say. It'll continue going on is basically what he's saying. As she's stating, there are leaders that don't want this going on. This is it, man. America's been sold a long time ago, and we're seeing it through the deterioration of our major cities. And it's sad because I understand that the American dream gives people hope. Whether or not you love your country or not, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the idea of America still resonated through the international community. People still associated America with hope, with chance, with possibility. And as they start to see our major cities deteriorate, San Fran, LA, Chicago, Minneapolis, New York City, it doesn't matter, name any major city in this country, Houston. It's unfortunate because now it's basically killing that idea. Like, if these cities are failing the way they are, what's the hope for us? Like, if we leave our country and go there, it looks like it's a sinking ship. Like, what are we gonna do? I mean, obviously, they can fix the issue. They can fix this issue within a week if they wanted to. Nationwide, they can fix this. The fact that we saw President Z come into San Fran and they clean up the entire city, not a homeless person in sight. There's barricades and fences everywhere. They set that up so efficiently. The question is, why didn't they do that a long time ago? What is Governor Gavin Newsom doing in the state of California? And I'm telling you guys this, these guys are trained from the same place. I believe there are NGOs that are training our leaders to specifically be radical Marxists, but also to put our cities in a bind to the point they collapse. That's the inevitable goal. Whether it's Lori Lightfoot, whether it's Brandon Johnson, or whoever the next mayor is going to be, the next governor is going to be, our next president is going to be, it's going to be the same process until we topple over and see the end of the American empire. Other than that, I'll stop there. It's sad seeing Chicago go in the direction that it's going. They're never going to get any answers here. He's going to keep shifting the goalposts. He's going to keep responding with ambiguous terminology, answering and using abstractions rather than specifically discussing what's going on. But you guys let me know down in the comments. What is going on? Who's responsible for this migrant crisis? Why is Joe Biden not assisting down at the border? You guys let me know your comments, because this is definitely a frustrating thing to see this happen in my lifetime. Oof. Again, at the end of the day, guys, remember Christ is King. Deuces.